We think that, it's about efficiency and money. If in a short time, they ain't saying nothing. So we are interested in quick money nowadays. We are not interested in investing for the future, right? But in most agricultural projects, if you are to get it going, you need to have at least a five-year planning horizon in order to attain the levels of profitability that are even required. And one of the things I keep on saying to people when we come to agriculture that you have to recognize, you could do everything right that you are supposed to do and still fail. Why? Because sometimes there are things that happen outside of your control that determine your success. A storm could come along, bad weather. Pest can come along outside of your control completely. You have no control of that. Okay? And of course, you have the predators. All of these things. So, and the trouble with this is that when these things happen to the farmer, instead of the state stepping in and saying, look, you know what? This has happened, and we need to buffer the farmer against these risks. That farmer is left out there on their own.
Defend on their own.
Okay? Like, for instance, the issue of Spencer's with that lady out there. Like, my heart goes out to her, and I think that the Barbados Agricultural Society, we are going to reach out to her to see how she can be assisted. Okay? But the point is, though, really, in situations such as that, we need to have a system in place. And I'm not suggesting, though, that we just do it like that. Because when you do that, then people will feel it is okay to go on land, take up produce that is not yours, because you know what happened at the end of the day, that person is going to benefit. But the truth is really, though, we need to start to have systems in agriculture that actually buttress these people against these type of risks and these type of happenings. That is why, for instance, we are having a discussion now, for instance, of the use of more technology in agriculture in order to prevent the amount of stealing of agricultural crops that we are seeing.
Yes, petty larceny.
The petty larceny incidences, that is something that we need to have that discussion going on, right? And of course, the whole thing is this too. I think that we're getting to the point where these conversions of these large tracts of land, I think it should be the subject of a public debate. Because, it's too, yes, these persons own the land, but the consequences of the transfer out of that land from out of agriculture to other uses are so severe in the longer term. And it has environmental consequences even for the lands and the immediate environments up there, that I think it should be the subject of future debates. That should not, to my mind, be the decision of one person there to decide, well, look, let's go ahead with it, or a bunch of technocrats sometimes, who some of them are not even in touch with the realities, okay, of the management of the environment and the issues that they need to contend with as we proceed into the future. This is, and I think we need to start to get more creative so that the public themselves, we avoid the situation where, as is happening now, the public feels aggrieved as to some of these decisions taken because there's no transparency in terms of the decisions being taken, right? And remember, every inch of agricultural land or every acre that you take out of production has consequences for future acres and the ability of farmers in the surrounding area to also conduct agriculture too at the same time. Because the environment, you can't shut off one aspect of the environment from each other. I will give you something. There was this, when the whole question of organic produce came in, there was this whole fad, because we like to follow the fads of the developed countries. And we were saying, oh, these things can be done in Barbados. But we found out that is not so true. That growing, as we said, agricultural land, okay? Sorry, growing organic produce is not as simple as that. Because for you to be able to qualify that this area is really, that it is organic, you have to show that for a certain period of years, I think it's 20 years or so, that no inorganic material has gone into that area. And Barbados is only 166 square miles. and we are button and a bunking in each part. So you cannot really, for all practical intents and purposes, really grow organic produce in Barbados. So we go with these fads, and we make pretend that we can do it. We can't. What we can do though, okay, we can create situations where, and I would say this: Barbados still has a relatively good record when it comes to the whole issue of being pesticide free in relation to, to production. And I would say that one of the things that in the agriculture sector that we do, we concentrate a lot on training. In that, for instance, you might not know, but every now and then within the Barbados Agriculture Society, we spend a lot of time speaking to our farmers about the responsible use of pesticides and other farm inputs, so that, for instance, you don't have a situation where there's overuse. So it is things that is how we try to guard against these things. But generally, what I would want to say, right? And I think I just want to go to, because I noticed the question of and I refer to the question of the funding of agriculture projects, that somehow in our financial landscape, that the financial institutions do not step up to the plate, right? In the same way as was done in the past, in terms of financing productive agricultural projects. And maybe what I was thinking, maybe there needs to be a partnership between the financial institutions in the private sector and government at the same time, because in most of the developed countries, that is how it works. Where
Mhm.
what governments does is that they have the financial institutions who might say be engaged in agriculture to leverage the risk.
Yeah,
But in
yeah.
doing so, you do not want to absorb those persons who are going into agriculture, or the financial institutions, them from ensuring that they follow due process, ensure that they do due diligence, so that, for instance, those projects that are selected are bona fide projects that carry a high chance of success. In other words, you don't just take anybody because I want you do like what the politicians do. Oh, let's get some land for this fella because he family large and he might give me a vote. If you get where I'm coming from,
Uh-huh.
okay. Therefore, they look at it that way. No, that is not should not be the immediate qualification. What should be the immediate qualification is that you can present a project. Once you can an agricultural project to a bank, and that project that you present can stand the test of time. It can be scrutinized, and it could be found that, you know what, if we apply normal financial principles and benchmarks that is likely to success, we should support it.
James, as you're talking, there are a few things running through my mind in
Mhm.
terms of the future. And I made a couple of notes here, which I want to throw your direction just to get your thoughts on. Um, you spoke just now about the aspect of security, managing the risk. And I remember
Mhm.
some time ago, someone getting into business, and the central bank was one of the security, what do they call them, guarantors. The central bank was one of the guarantors of the small business starting up. The central bank provided that risk coverage, because I believe that some of the financial institutions may have a reservation in terms of the continuity and success of what a person goes to them with agriculture to profit from. Because I believe one of the challenges we're facing is that people cannot see profitability from agriculture, because at the end of the day, they're still thinking not just providing a food security for the country. We would love people to be that patriotic, but they are looking to make money from it. That's why you get into business,
Mhm.
and they may be feeling that with all the risk involved and the returns on what they're looking to invest and so on, it may not be viable.
Mhm.
And then the last aspect I wanted to throw your direction has to do with the future and how agriculture fits into our educational system to help to develop a perspective within our growing population. Don't let me say population, growing generation. From as early as primary school. I remember in primary school. how I used to put and I'm sure you remember this. We used to put the
Mhm.
blotting paper, you remember, in the glass with the water with the seed down the side,
That's right. That's right.
and we
That's right.
started growing. I
Mhm.
remember when I was going to school with my mother at Boscobel School, we had to plant little gardens in the back of the school,
Mhm.
and I learned a few things about agriculture. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination an
Mhm.
agriculturist today, but
Mhm.
those were things that helped me to appreciate a lot of where we are today in terms of our food security. And I'm just
Mhm.
wondering if there should not be some kind of a synergy
Mhm.
between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Education in order to develop future entrepreneurs, particularly in the agricultural sector.
Well, I would say this. Yes, I think, in a sense, you roll up the schools in terms of getting an appreciation of agriculture on the part of young people cannot be underestimated. Um, and, you know, we don't recognize sometimes how impressionable children are.
Hmm.
Very, very, very impressionable. And what it says is that you can actually develop a generation much more open to doing things in agriculture at a very young stage in their lives. If we focus a lot more on us, and we have teachers in this, and I will tell you this, I visited a number of schools throughout the country, and I will say to you that we have some wonderful teachers in our schools who are very interested in promoting agriculture. They do. And sometimes even in deference to sometimes the social setting and whatever, they do. And there's a level of enthusiasm that is there in terms of the promotion of that agriculture, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Hmm.
and for instance, even I want to go back to AgroFest a bit that we hold every year in February, which I hope again that we'll be able to continue that for some time. That in itself as an activity has helped to generate tremendous interest on the part of our young people in terms of the kind of projects that they generated and the level of participation that we see from them. So we have to focus on our schools, and getting the right message over to our young people at a very early
Hmm.
age. Because I keep on hearing the talk about the whole question of agriculture and in the past its association with slavery. But I want to say in a very simple way, I was never a slave. My mother was never a slave. My
Me
father
never.
never
Me
a slave.
neither.
She was a very proud, poor, but independent woman. I saw with my father. Right? And the people I see around me, they were never slaves. And I find that somehow when we want to talk about agriculture, we want to bring the past in. It is not about the past anymore. It is about now.
And the future.
That is what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to manage agriculture in that particular setting, talking about now and the future. And we know what the mandates are now. The mandates are now that if we are to safeguard our food security as we go into the future, that we have to teach our population to form an appreciation of agriculture and to understand the role that they have to play at a very early age in ensuring that we achieve success in the agricultural sector. And it has to begin in the schools. And that is why, for instance, the education program, the mindsets that we have, okay, very, very important that we reach out to our young people in those schools because I will tell you, even now, there are young people who are involved in AgroFest now. Extremely good exhibitionists. And as a matter of fact, there's a young people who they're running farms now. You know where they started? In the school. That 49, that is where they started in the schools, right? Right? And they came through our program. The young people would tell you that they used to come to AgroFest when they're young. I remember a young lady, I think she still works at Call William. No, I don't think I'm not sure. And people you used to come to AgroFest and was fascinated by the fact that here's this young lady, but it started in the school. That
Hmm.
is where it
Hmm.
started. So let us not try to diminish the importance of the school, the educational system, right? But what we need to do, and that this is the other issue I have. Whenever we speak about these things, you get these people who like to do these studies and all kind of stuff. Instead of listening to the teachers in the school, the people who actually are the contact point with the students to find out what their ideas are and help them to implement those ideas, because that is one of the issues that we have today in our society. That every time you come up with an idea, instead of pushing money behind the people who have the ideas, that is not where the money goes. The money goes to some, I don't want to call them con artists, but they consultants in some way, okay, who want to study the ideas that the people have and then make a pronouncement on it. That is not what it's about, right? Let us support the people on the ground who have the ideas, who can see something where they can make an intervention in a very practical way, influence young minds, and put the money behind it. That is what we need to do, and that is the approach that we should have.
You know, one of the things that ran through my mind just now, and I don't know if it was done, or if it's being done, or if it was in a plan or anything of the sort, but I just dropped it down here in my pad, about schools adopting, and I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but schools adopting a agricultural property, or a segment of agriculture for those students who have an interest in agriculture to actually grow, to grow produce on that property, that could be a benefit to them, but at the same time they're contributing to the agricultural development in the country. Oh, is that something that we could look at, or is it something that's been done before, or anything of that nature?
But I don't know if a school is there, can be there to manage a property and agricultural property in the same way. But what I will say to you is that there's a school in the area of St. George, St. Philip, up by Grant. That's by the King George the Fifth Part. I cannot remember the name of the school, so they must forgive me if I can't remember the name of the school. And that school, they have an area up there. If I remember, they used to have an area, and there's another one in St. Philip that I went to last year, where they have a wonderful agricultural land right there. And that land, right? I must praise the headmaster who was there. I don't know if he's still there, for the fact that that headmaster manages that, and he sees it as his business to try to make sure he manages it properly for his students. What you need, at least, it doesn't necessarily have to be a farm, but at least some type of agriculture can be conducted in school environments
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it could represent a learning tool for those students who happen to be interested in agriculture. That is
Right,
what we need,
right, right.
right? And
So,
that
so
approach can work.
so that a portion of the property, just, I mean, for argument's sake, it's just ideas running through my mind, that because you want to look toward the future too. You don't just want to be dealing with what's happening here.
Mhm.
But we're going to be long gone, and they're going to be children growing up into the adults taking on the responsibilities that we currently have.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering, if in the future, when they're looking to plant schools in different facilities and different areas and so on, if they could consider a portion of the property being
Mhm.
used for the school for that
Mhm.
purpose. You know what I'm
What, what,
saying?
what I
Agricultural
think would be
development.
nice, though,
Yeah.
is I think that in every area that you have a school in Barbados, there are farmers. And what I've seen, for instance, I know that there are some farmers that the BS have that have been very, very, very cooperative in terms of when, for instance, schools call and they ask, how can we, can we? That is right. Pedro Jama just gave me a Hilda Ski School in St. Philip. I must, yes, 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 right? Listen, they have it's a wonderful land up there. I would tell you, right? And I am sure, I really praise that headmaster. I hope he's still there and it is continuing. Okay, right? And that is something that should continue. Okay, but what we need to do is to have farmers working with the schools in the area too, That would help because let us agricultural land is becoming so valuable. And it will soon become very valuable that we need to concentrate on the commercial production so that when children go to farms now, they can actually see what it is like to operate a commercial operation. And that is what we want to show children that you can actually make, because I find that too many of the agricultural endeavors, okay, that we have now, it's like sometimes you give people the impression, oh, you don't have to make money. But that's agriculture is a business. And I would say to you, I know of a gentleman, he's died now. He is, and I'm sure the family will mind me calling his name. Is Mr. Gill, who he actually established Chicken Stop in St. George, Sorton, St. George, Andrew Gill. He's died now, and his sons are carrying on the enterprise now, right? Where they have some land there where they operate a chicken operation, plus they have a field there where they grow crops. Okay, he financed the university education of his children out of that land, and he didn't have to go to the state and beg them for anything, but he did it out of that land. But it shows
Hmm.
you the possibilities that exist with good management, how you can make an agricultural undertaking a successful enterprise. And that is what we should be focusing, because I really think that the answer to getting children more interested in agriculture is by showing them that, you know what, yes, there is everything that you do is hard work. And I don't think that we should be continue be saying or fooling up people, oh, technology is going to make mean that you don't have to work too hard. That is not true. As a matter of fact, as you know, sir, the rich work harder than us. Okay? They work
It's
they
just
work
it's just that the work smarter.
and they work smart, of course, but they work,
Work
okay?
smarter. But
Right?
oh yes, we do. Oh
But
yes,
they work hard, right? And I
yes.
think really that what we need to show our young people, right? That if they work and apply the scientific principles that need to be applied in agriculture, if they have the correct management methods, that they can be successful. And that is what is important. But again, I want to emphasize that we need to support those initiatives that we have in our schools, giving them the type of resources that they need, right? To do the kind of things that they need to do with the students to generate the interest that's required for them to be interested in the sector.